Innovation, as we've learned throughout this series, is rarely an overnight sensation. Remember how solar panels sat on rooftops for years before becoming mainstream, or how wind turbines dotted coastlines long before whole nations ran on their power. Like many great innovations, hydrogen has taken its time finding its true calling. As the universe's most abundant element, hydrogen has been promising to revolutionise energy for decades. Has its time finally arrived?
If you can electrify, you absolutely should. However, you can't electrify everything, so therefore there has to be a place for hydrogen.
It is a Marmite topic, but it does have the potential to give us another option for energy, especially replacing natural gas.
In this episode, we'll hear the policy realities of weaving green hydrogen into Britain's energy tapestry and the economic arguments for why it might just be the missing piece in the puzzle.
This is, I believe, much better for the stability of the entire electricity system and provides a clear incentive to continue to build solar and wind.
I'm Claire Nazir, and this is Inside Energy, a podcast by Ofgem, exploring how the energy we use today has evolved and how it will change in the future. So, what's the case for hydrogen?
We think hydrogen will play a vital role in industrial decarbonisation.
Hilary is a fellow of the Institute of Mechanical Engineers and the head of strategy for Future of Gases at Ofgem.
Particularly in hard-to-electrify sectors such as ceramics, cement and chemical production. It is likely that hydrogen will also play an important role in the power sector.
The drive for this is coming from the UK government.
They've set an ambitious target of about 10 gigawatts low-carbon hydrogen production by 2030, with a significant proportion of this coming from green hydrogen.
Hydrogen comes in many colours, and not all of them are kind to our planet. Grey hydrogen made from natural gas still dominates production. Blue hydrogen adds carbon capture to the mix, cleaner but not pristine. Then there's green hydrogen, the star of our show, produced using renewable electricity to split water into its component parts. The UK government is keen that green hydrogen is produced where it's likely to be needed the most.
There is a real focus, and especially around the industrial clusters as locations for hydrogen production and infrastructure as well as carbon capture. The government has announced funding for Tyneside and Humberside. It's a major hub for hydrogen production using carbon capture, and the other one is located around Merseyside and North Wales and focuses on blue and green hydrogen production with plans to develop extensive hydrogen pipelines and storage facilities.
Green hydrogen ticks the box for clean energy and our net zero ambitions, and also energy security, part of what experts describe as the energy trilemma.
With hydrogen, it gives us an option of potentially a homegrown energy vector, so less reliance on imported fossil fuels. And the other thing with hydrogen on security of supply, with intermittent energy coming from renewable energy, it gives us a good opportunity for energy flexibility. Excess renewable energy could be converted into hydrogen for periods of low demand, stored and then released when needed. So it's both energy security and flexibility.
The third part of the energy trilemma is costs, and we'll come back to this later. Hydrogen has been promising to revolutionise transport for over 20 years. In 2004, 3 hydrogen fuel cell powered buses were introduced on a 2-year trial in London. They were tested in commercial service at peak times only. By 2010, London was running the largest hydrogen bus fleet in Europe, with the world's first hydrogen fuel cell double-decker bus, the Wright Street Deck Hydroliner, entering service 11 years later. Even so, hydrogen is not proving to be a wide-scale transport solution. According to the most recent official data, there are believed to be around 265 registered hydrogen vehicles in the UK, including cars, vans, heavy goods vehicles and buses. There are currently only around 11 hydrogen refuelling stations across the UK. So, if we are not currently looking at hydrogen replacing battery-operating vehicles, what about hydrogen for heating?
This year, there is the H100 Fife trial in Scotland looking at the viability of hydrogen for domestic heating. We're still awaiting a government position on hydrogen for heating, but it's a very complex area and it's keeping options open. It could potentially be a secondary route for hydrogen for heating if government decided to take us down that route. There is a network there, but supply of hydrogen to replace natural gas in significant amount is going to be the biggest conundrum, which is why you think actually we've got to target this scarce hydrogen to hard to electrify industry or power over domestic heating.
Time to introduce a new company that's pioneering hydrogen production.
We recognise that electrification for the majority of the world's decarbonisation effort is the way to go. If you can electrify, you absolutely should electrify. But not everything can be electrified, and certainly not everything can be electrified cost effectively or easily from a technology point of view. And that's where hydrogen fits in.
Boris Davis is the UK business lead for Lhyfe, which is based in the northeast of England.
Lhyfe is a developer, producer, owner, operator of green hydrogen plants. So we take green electricity, we take water, we split that water into hydrogen and oxygen, and we sell that to customers looking to decarbonise. The company started in 2017. It was one man's vision who took 8 friends come colleagues along with him. By 2021, we had the world's first commercially operated green hydrogen production site being powered by a wind farm. 2022, we had the world's first offshore hydrogen production. So we really have been a company of pioneers.
Lhyfe is now in scale-up mode with operations in 12 countries.
Our mission is to be at the forefront of the effort to bring the hydrogen economy, the hydrogen industry, and make it accessible to industries, to vehicle users in those applications which are difficult to electrify. So we're focusing on heavy vehicle applications, trucks, buses. We're focusing on heavy industry, and we're focusing on where hydrogen is used as a feedstock today.
And this is where decision-making on where to locate is so critical to success.
You can think about it in one of two ways. You can either think, where do I have lots of renewable electricity being produced that I can then tap into that and produce green hydrogen? But then the next question you ask is, well, where am I supposed to sell this hydrogen? And there's a little bit of a mismatch between where green energy is produced. So when we think of where is there a lot of green energy, we think of Scotland, we think of offshore, not places that immediately jump out as being particularly industry heavy. So if you flip it and say, well, actually, where is the need for hydrogen? And that is how we develop our projects today, is where is the need for hydrogen? Where can I sell my hydrogen, and work back from that to actually, where do I have to put my site then so I can access green hydrogen and make it at a price which is able to be subsidised by government.
Wherever it's produced, currently no green hydrogen producer can hide behind the knowledge that it is expensive. The UK government's hydrogen allocation rounds, or HARs, are competitive funding programmes designed to kickstart the country's green hydrogen industry by bridging the crucial investment gap that's been holding back commercial-scale projects. It's a commitment that's already beginning to shift the economics. When governments back technologies with this kind of conviction, costs tend to fall. Ofgem's Hilary Hill again.
The first allocation round awarded contracts to 11 green hydrogen production projects with a combined capacity of 125 megawatts. And quite recently, government has announced the shortlist of the HAR2 allocation round, and that was 27 electrolytic projects across both England, Scotland and Wales.
The HARs allocate revenue that support projects over a 15-year period. Overcoming the operating cost gap between low-carbon hydrogen and high-carbon counterfactual fuels is one of the longest subsidy contracts for hydrogen developers anywhere in the world.
I think the UK has really taken a pioneering approach. So we were one of the first countries to adopt a hydrogen strategy back in 2021. So what we've actually got is action. And what that gives investors, whether it be equity investors or banks, is the certainty that this project or all the projects in HAR1, HAR2 are backed by the UK government over that 15-year timeframe. It gives investors that level of comfort, which is what's needed for everyone to make their return.
The UK not only has created a fertile business ground for hydrogen, there's an existing oil and gas skilled workforce with decades of experience, especially the industrial hubs close to the North Sea.
Those skills that they have, understanding the flow of liquids, whether that be crude oil, whether that be hydrogen, it's still counted as fluid, is valuable to us. You know, what we want for people working on our hydrogen assets are people who really understand the process flow and people who are very good at fixing issues when they arise. Emphasis on safety that is in that industry is so key, and we want to extract that and bring that to hydrogen. I mean, I myself come from the oil and gas world, so it's a point in case in terms of how the transition can be made.
For those who are invested in this sector, it's now about gaining traction and momentum. And this is about many moving parts coming together.
There are a lot of challenges when it comes to developing green hydrogen site. It tends to be the first of a kind for all the parties involved. So what I would hope to see in the next 5 years, in the second half of this decade, is that the UK starts to leapfrog some of our European neighbours in terms of green hydrogen production. If you look at the mix of who is in hydrogen allocation round 2, it's not just companies like us whose only business is green hydrogen. It is the big utilities. They are developing hydrogen at scale. And if those companies who are notoriously risk averse, maybe a little bit slower in decision making, if they are getting involved in green hydrogen, it tends to be that is because there is something meaningful behind it. And they see the case for investing their money in hydrogen rather than putting it in more wind and solar generation.
Lhyfe are preparing for this momentum to go all the way, with a production site based in the northeast of England.
Our timeline is for it to be operational towards the end of the decade. So we're looking at 2028 to be up and running. We have received really good support from the local authority and indeed the wider Northeast Combined Authority about getting the plant over the line. It's going to be a proper commercial hydrogen production site. We're going to have 20 megawatts of installed electrolyser on the site, which will produce something like 6.5 tons of green hydrogen per day. Where that hydrogen goes, well, it'll be a mix of customers. So we'll have half of it going to a very nearby industrial customer via pipe. The remaining half will be taken to other customers in the region, all within about a 20-kilometre radius. So it's very much green hydrogen being produced in Tyneside, will stay in Tyneside, and that will be used for both decarbonising industrial heat processes as well as providing a fuel for fuel cell vehicles as well. So it is a nice mix of off-takers, glass, pharmaceuticals and food and beverage industry as well.
The site in Wallsend in Teesside is 4 acres, with a proportion devoted to biodiversity. The whole plant is powered by renewable energy.
The community have been really supportive as well. When we did our community engagement, we had some concerns, which you would expect, around safety, noise, but we also had a good number of people turn up with that curiosity and say, well, what is it that you're trying to do here? And then by the end of it say, well, I think it's great that you're doing this in Wallsend. It's nice to see industry come back to the area, and you have our support with it.
Green hydrogen has enormous potential, but not without its critics. Let's take a moment to examine the other side of the debate. Because for all the optimism, there are real concerns about whether green hydrogen can deliver on its promises. Take British Columbia, for example. Just last year, a major investigation revealed that at least 7 large-scale hydrogen projects worth over $13 billion had been quietly shelved or cancelled. The reasons? Sky-high costs. uncertain demand, and infrastructure gaps. Similar stories are playing out globally. Australia's Port Pirie project was scrapped. BP's blue hydrogen plant in Tyneside was shelved. And in the US, progress has been slow. The Hydrogen Council's own data shows that fewer than 4% of announced hydrogen projects worldwide have actually broken ground. The rest still stuck in the planning phase. Critics argue that the fundamental issue is physics. Turning renewable electricity into hydrogen, shipping it, and converting it back into energy is incredibly inefficient. You lose around 70% of the original energy in the process. As one analyst put it, you're better off mailing extension cords. But here's the thing, even the harshest critics agree that hydrogen does have a role to play. Today, over 90% of hydrogen is used in industry for refining ammonia and chemicals. And in those sectors, replacing dirty grey hydrogen with clean alternatives is a no-brainer for cutting emissions. The real debate is whether hydrogen should go beyond that, into power, transport or heating, or if that's just a costly distraction from better solutions. So, is green hydrogen a vital piece of the net zero puzzle or an overhyped dead end? Well, that's where we return to author Chris Goodall. We first heard him in episode 4 on renewable energy. I asked him whether it's possible to swap our reliance on natural gas with hydrogen.
We can build power stations that use hydrogen generation. Some people don't think it's a good idea, but the majority of the British gas system can be used to carry hydrogen. And there are plans across Europe also to use hydrogen as a replacement for natural gas. Hydrogen is a smaller molecule, will tend to leak much more easily from pipes. Hydrogen can corrode metal pipes, so we'll need big, secure plastic pipes in which to transport the gas. It's not going to be ridiculously easy for the transmission network to completely accommodate hydrogen, but there is no long-term obstacle.
In Europe, we're already seeing green hydrogen being produced in an industry responsible for 2 to 3% of global CO2 emissions, the generation of fertilizer.
You need hydrogen to make fertilizer. Instead of using natural gas, you can use electricity to make the hydrogen. That's cleaner. And in certain parts of the world where electricity from solar is abundant and cheap, for example, Spain, we're already beginning to see the transfer of the industry to green hydrogen. We need to encourage that in the UK, and manufacturers want to do it, but we need to give them access to relatively cheap hydrogen in large quantities. That's going to take some time to become available.
And in the future, Chris sees hydrogen's key role in the UK is to help us stabilise our electricity system.
So that long periods of surplus and deficit, when either the wind is blowing or we've got a gale in the North Sea, we've got the energy capacity to continue to run our electricity system. Let me just explain that very briefly. So when we've got too much electricity, a situation which I've said will occur more and more over the next few years, we have to find a way of storing that electricity so that it's useful. Now, batteries help a bit, but batteries at the moment can only provide us with a few hours of storage, when in fact we need a few weeks of storage. The only possible way of doing that I can envisage at the moment, of course things may change, is by converting that electricity, that surplus electricity, into hydrogen. And we take that hydrogen and we store it, probably in large underground caverns. And then when there isn't enough electricity from renewables in the UK system, we bring that hydrogen out of that storage cavern and turn that hydrogen back into electricity. And that provides the stability to allow us to run a 100% renewable system. Now, I have to say, this is not the route which government and regulators think is right at the moment. They're talking about using gas-fired power stations with carbon capture and storage. That is to say, when there's not enough electricity, gas-fired power stations will be turned on and their output emissions of carbon dioxide will be stored. My route is, I believe, much better for the stability of the entire electricity system and provides a clear incentive to continue to build solar and wind.
The role which hydrogen will play is, as we can see, still the subject of much debate. The cost is still there to be wrestled with, but it will have a role. And maybe, after many years of promises, it has stopped being tomorrow's fuel and become today's solution. A big thanks to author Chris Goodall, Boris Davis from Lhyfe, and Hilary Hill from Ofgem for their contributions to this episode. If you enjoyed it, share it with someone who also might like it. I'm Claire Nazir. Inside Energy is a Bengo Media production for Ofgem.